Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge. Tonight we are joined by a man that bleeds red and white, a man that's done all there is to do at Swindon Town Football Club, from working within the youth setup to coaching within the first team. Well, this season, he's taken the jump to the STFC managerial hot seat. He's now the main man calling the shots. He's led Town to a promising start to our League Two campaign in search of promotion that we all crave, bringing pure passion and desire to the sidelines, which has also been carried out onto the field of play by his players. This man wears his heart on his sleeve and the Swindon Town crest on his heart. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honour to present to you Mr. Super Scotty Lindsey. Scott, how's it going, mate?
Good evening, all. How are we?
Yeah, very good, thank you. I'm buzzing for this. I can't wait. I'm a bit nervous as well, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, me too. We're looking forward to it. Always good to get on here and do loads of questions, different questions. So now looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Right. Before we jump in, I'll introduce you to my panel. So up first, we've got Mr. Mike Yavuz. Mike, how's it going, mate?
Very well. Excited to ask Scott Lindsey some questions.
Happy days. We've got Chris Phillips. Chris, how's it going?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. It should be a good one tonight.
Absolutely. We've also got Ellis. How's it going, buddy?
Hello, everyone. I'm good, thank you. Really looking forward to this one.
Happy days. Right, we'll jump straight into the questions. So my first question, what are three of the most obvious things in your approach to Swindon Town that you feel have switched from assistant to gaffer?
I think the three different things that I've had to deal with is obviously managing up for a start, speaking to Clem and Sandro. I think as an assistant, you don't kind of have that relationship that you would if you was a manager, obviously. So that's one thing. Not necessarily managing up, but obviously just having that relationship with people at the club that you don't necessarily have when you're an assistant. I think having the connection with the supporters. I think it's always difficult when you're an assistant manager. I had a situation when I was at Forest Green as an assistant manager, and the manager didn't have a great relationship with the supporters. Yet I did, and I found that kind of hard to manage myself. So I think it's better when you're a manager because you can celebrate in a manner that's you're the manager. You can do what you want, kind of thing, and you can kiss the badge and clap the fans at the end, kind of how you want to do it, and not hide behind a manager who's maybe not going to do that. So I think that's a big thing for me as well, and I think obviously the media is similar to that as well. Obviously doing the media stuff, which you don't do as an assistant. And of course the main nuts and bolts of the job, which is coaching the team. I do it my way now, and I've been kind of coaching for a long time professionally. I've always been someone's assistant, or I've always been someone's first team coach, or before when I was obviously previous at Swindon as the youth coach, but now being in the hot seat, I get to do it my way. And over the years, I've learned off good managers, and I've learned off some not so good, and how not to do it. And I've taken a lot on board, and that's the bit I enjoy the most, is being really, on the grass with the players, explaining how we're going to beat an opposition on a Saturday, and going through the detail of that. I really enjoy that side of it.
Amazing. Who we got up next? Mike, your turn, buddy.
Okay, so the next question is, who has been the best and worst team we faced this season, and also which opposition player has impressed you the most?
The worst and best opposition. I think the best opposition was Leyton Orient. They have similar kind of movements and rotations to ourselves. They obviously pass the ball nicely. They've got good players. I think there was a good side when we played them. I didn't think we was I didn't think we was probably where we are now when we played them. I think it'd be a better game now. I think probably most of you would agree with that as well. So hopefully when we do play them, we'll be in a better place than we was when we played them. But I thought they were a good side. The worst side, I think it's hard for me to say because we're going to play against them all again soon. So I don't really want to say in terms of that, if that's all right. Sorry about that.
I think that's fair.
And there's been some good players we've played against. You know, I really like the wide player at Leyton Orient, Theo Archibald. I think he excites. He's aggressive. He can cross the ball. He can shoot. He can score. But he works extremely hard. I look at Theo, and I worked with him before. I worked with him at Forest Green. He's a good player. So yeah, I really like him.
Amazing.
Who's your worst team? I'll put it back on you.
Colchester.
Colchester.
Yeah.
Yeah. In all fairness, I probably wouldn't majorly disagree. But having said that, the manager's only just got in, so it's probably a transitional period for him, certainly. And I'm sure they'll get, they'll get a lot better under his management. But yeah, they
disappointed as well.
Who? Sorry,
Newport.
Yeah. And do you know what? It was obviously just before James got the sack, and I felt when he went in last season, I don't know if you remember the game at their place, in particular, they absolutely battered us for football. And I thought, wow, this guy's a good coach. I was really impressed. I thought these can play. And then speaking to him after we played him, he just said he hadn't got the same kind of players to do what he wanted to do. I think that's sometimes hard, isn't it? I think that he did at the time, and he didn't when we played them kind of the last game. But yeah, they weren't great, was they really? But
I think they were sort of what you were expecting, weren't they? They were kind of a typical League Two side. I think the problem with Swindon fans, and probably my own perception, is I don't see us as a League Two side. I think in terms of the way we play football, I think the players that we have on the books, I think in my head we're a standard above. So it's kind of like when you're playing against a team that's a bit more agricultural, if you like, or when you think of League Two, you think kick it, head it. In my head, maybe that's changing. I think that's changing, but
yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I think it's a fair point, and I think that we've got this way of playing that we're not going to get away from. I know it drives the fans mad sometimes when we do the goal kick and all that, but we do want to try and control the ball and bring the ball out from the back and try and have that dominance. And there is times when we have to kick it. We know, if they set up a 3-man or a 4-man press against us, then we might have to play round or through or even over for us to get control of the ball further up the pitch. But, there's times when you hear a few people groaning about us playing backwards and sideways passing, but sometimes we have to, especially at the county ground, because a lot of teams sit in and bank in. Saw it on Saturday. Especially against Colchester, they sat in and made it difficult. Should we have won the game by more? Definitely. But, it's hard when there's a team of footballers who are sitting behind the ball and sitting really deep, and they narrow the spaces. And it does become difficult. My message to players for games like that is to try and score early, because then they've got to come out and do something.
Well, you saw that certainly with the goal, just keeping the ball opened the gap for that ball that went into Johnny Williams before he put the cross in. But just by keeping the ball, just created that space.
Not 100%, and you can watch a million goals over the period of time, and I have done. Trust me, I have. And you watch sort of like even the big sides, your Man Cities and everybody. Every single goal, or there's a lot of goals that are scored within the action. Say if there's 15 passes in a build-up to a goal, there may be 6 or 7 of them passes are backward within that action, So you've got to sometimes gain that control, and sometimes you've got to come back out and bring the opposition out in order for you to create them spaces to probe, And there is a reason. I know. Look, listen. If I had my way, we could pass it once up the pitch and kick it in the net. Do it every time, like I've said before. But unfortunately, we've got an opposition who've got 11 men who are trying to stop you from doing it. So we've got to think of different ways, And I think that we've had a lot of the ball in nearly every game.
Oh, apologies, guys. We've seemed to have lost Scott. I think our Zoom meeting, we're trying to do it a bit differently, has ended. Bear with us for 2 seconds. We're just going to try and start it up again. Right, we're back on, hopefully. Let's see if anyone joins. If anyone's listening that's on the Teams call, just join the call again, and we should be back on. Well, this is far from ideal, wasn't it? Apologies, guys. I think Scott's been great so far. I hope you guys are enjoying listening in. Oh, we've got Ellis back. You all right, mate?
Hello.
Hello. Just waiting for the gaffer to come back on.
Oh, no.
The worst one to do it to as well. The actual manager.
The most important one.
Right.
He was giving such a good answer as well.
Oh, he was halfway through a great answer.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, mate. Yeah.
We messaged the gaffer to tell us to join the same link.
I've texted him, so hopefully he's got his phone to hand.
Little does he know, we kicked him off.
Yeah.
This is from the fans. We just he's had enough. Yeah.
I think he's been speaking well, though. I loved his answer. Do you know what? When we put him on the spot about the worst opposition to play, and I said Colchester, I'm not saying he agreed with me, but I think, I think what I said was valid, in my head, we're not a League Two team. The quality we've got on the pitch, to me, is top-end League One.
And the style of football we play doesn't suit League Two.
No, 100%. Here he is, the gaffer's back. Sorry, mate.
We all got kicked off.
Yeah, I think it's because we haven't got a pro license on Zoom, so we'll have to get Clem to bankroll us for some pro licenses.
Yep, we're all back now, though.
Yeah. Ellis, your question was up next, mate. Do you want to jump on with your question?
Yes. Scott, who has been the most influential coach of your career, either as a kid or a pro?
Most influential coach?
Yeah, that you've come across in your career.
Okay, so it's a good question. I had a coach who worked with me when I played for Peter Taylor at Dover in the National League, and he had a youth coach working for him called Carl Larriman. And Larry was different to every coach that I worked with. He just had something different about him. He ended up having a really good career, worked something like 26 years in the Premier League, 10 with Charlton, 16 with Arsenal. Very good coach. He's an older gentleman now, and he's actually mentoring me now.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he's a good guy. He comes to all the games. Sits in the background, goes kind of unnoticed, and comes down at half time and has a few words to say to me. It might just be one or two little things, but he's a very, very good coach. Like a lot of good players from Arsenal come through under his kind of leadership. Jack Wilshere and players like that. So he, for me, growing up, he was just different. He had something different about him, and like I say, I wasn't playing non-league when he was a very young coach, and he went on, and like I say, he had something like 26 years in the Premier League, 16 with Arsenal, working in the academy there. He was a proper good coach. And like I say, he's an older gentleman now, doesn't want to be on the grass really as such. Just mentoring me, he's kind of a perfect job for him, and I respect him very much so. And he gets on with all the lads as well, all the coaching staff and all the players seem to like him and buy into him as well.
Must be nice to sort of have that person there that that you could always go to for advice or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, listen, I'm not a young manager as such. I'm 50 years of age, so I'm not sort of like young in my years. There's a lot of managers in the Football League who are a lot younger than me, but it is my first job. So, you do kind of need that little bit of stability in the background. Bearing in mind as well, I've got kind of young coaches around me, and Gav, and Jamie Day, you know, and you know, I've got they're relatively kind of young anyway, you know, so to have that that older one upstairs, I think's not upstairs, but he just sits, kind of goes under the radar, sits and watches the game, and comes down and gives me a little bit of his knowledge.
I suppose it helps break you in, doesn't it, from being an assistant to being a gaffer? It's sort of a bridge through those two roles. Yeah, that's gone under the radar. That's really nice to hear. That's really good to hear. Who we got up next? It's my question next. So obviously, your life at the moment, I'd imagine, is Swindon Town 24/7. It's prepping for games, doing research on players, maybe for recruitment, but you must have some sort of time to yourself to unwind. How do you best unwind? What do you do to slow things down?
Well, I go home, you know, to my family home in Kent. You know, that's kind of like it's like fresh air to me in a way. You know, you're in this bubble of work, and then, you know, there's days when I come home when the players are on their downtime. You know, days off for the players, but not necessarily a day off for me. But coming home to work is really good. You know, like today, for argument's sake, I'm at home now in Kent, and obviously we had the game last night, so I didn't get in until 1 o'clock this morning. But I got up this morning. My girlfriend, she works from home. She works from home on my days when I'm home. So today we went for a really long walk with the dogs. Went for miles, which was nice. And then come home and I did some work. Started watching, obviously, the next opposition in Hartlepool. Obviously watched bits of the game back from last night as well. Clip some bits up for tomorrow for training to show some players. So I've done maybe 3 hours work today, and then just chill out with my family. Really, just my family are really my bit that I enjoy my life with. You know, just like a bit. I've got 3 girls. I've got 2 stepsons and a stepdaughter, and we just there's 6 kids in this house. It's mad. It's mad. You can imagine.
Say that's a busy household.
TikToking, like constantly TikToking. Don't know how many TikToks I've done today, but it's a few. You've done your own TikToks? No, I don't do them. They just come in and say, Dad, Twitter. Yeah, they just come in. My daughter's just come in and said, Dad, can you just say this? And I just say it, and the next minute I'm on it. I ain't got a clue what it means. You're going to get Hoops and Jonah coming up with their phone tomorrow morning and saying, oh, Gaffer, can you just say this for us, please? Yeah, well, I won't do it for them. I only do it for my kids. Let's move on swiftly for the questions. So, who's up next? Chris, I believe.
Yes, Scott. In this sort of this Moneyball era at Swindon we have now, how much of an influence on the signing of players do you personally have? Well, obviously part of the process. We don't sign anybody if I don't fancy them. I really don't. You know, I mean, it kind of, for argument's sake, if there's a right back we're looking for, there'll be probably a list of maybe 5 or 6 that's been earmarked. The data has kind of churned out good numbers for these 5 or 6 players. Then I'll spend the next 2 or 3 days looking at them at close quarters, and then I might whittle it down to maybe 3 that I really like, and then we speak, you know, to the people in the background as well, and then we might kind of get a bit more background on them as well. So no, I'm a massive part of that process, and of course, no signing will be made really. You know, if I don't fancy him and say, look, no, then, you know, it's a no, and then we'll move on to the next one, you know. And I think the recruitment, if I'm honest with you, I think it's been brilliant. And I think it was probably questioned, and I really do understand why it was questioned, and I think it's probably questioned at every football club where everybody gets used to certain players, right? You know, you build relationships as supporters to certain players. You know, like your Jack Paynes and your McCurdy's and all the supporters build these relationships with them, and then they leave, and then a new player comes in, like a Ronan Darcy, and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, he's not as good as Payne, or he's not as good as McCurdy. In actual fact, they are, but you just kind of got to build them relationships with them again. Do you get what I mean? So, 100%. And I'm not a manager. I feel I'm not a manager that wants to churn
I don't want to churn out players on a regular basis where we're making wholesale changes in January. Then in the summer, I'm signing another 20 players. I think we've actually got a squad that's probably maybe you had two in January, 1 or 2. But that squad's probably there for the next 2 years, in my opinion, if not hopefully longer. And you might lose some along the way. Not lose it as in they're not going to be good enough, but maybe we sell. I don't know. You know, you look at some of the performances, some of the younger players, you think there's a massive chance that we could. And that's kind of how I am. I do understand supporters' feelings about connections with players. I do get it, you know. And then it's just about building that relationship and that trust. And when you watch Ronan Darcy and Tom Clayton and Seydou Khan, when you watch them over a period of time, you start believing in these players because they're good players. And I think recruitment's been good.
I think that, to be fair, we've had a massive turnaround of players in the summer, but I think the fans have really taken to the boys quite quickly. I mean, I can see looking now, you mentioned there, Seydou and Tom are both listening, and so is Tyrese. Those 3 boys, I think, genuinely, from being in the heart of the town end, they've really, really just touched, I think, some of the town fans. Someone like Ronan Darcy as well. Obviously, he's a Scouser. He's come down from Liverpool, come down from Bolton. He's got no affiliation with Swindon at all. Yet his name is sung probably 70 minutes of the 90 minutes of the football game at the county ground. And, you know, those relationships, they come through. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's got to help the boys settle in as well.
Yeah, but I think that you only see his name because he performs properly, right? You know?
Yeah.
You know, so, and that's the biggest thing is that the players are put on the pitch for a reason because they're good players. And then once you see him perform, and you see him perform over a period of time on a regular basis, you then start to have that affiliation with him. By the way, he's a good player, you know. And I'm really pleased with what we've signed, you know. There's a lot of clubs that I've spoke to, a lot of managers. You tend to get over, you know, if you're signing. I mean, we signed I think 21 players in the summer, you know.
Yeah.
Speaking to other managers, they're talking about signing less than that, obviously, and they're saying that they've got maybe 2 or 3 wrong. You know, I don't think we've got 2 or 3 wrong. I think we've got pretty much everyone right. You know, I think I'm really pleased with what we've done.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think if you look at the whole squad as a whole, I think our whole squad this season's so much better than last season, and just we've the individual players on the pitch all around, and the squad depth that we've got is significantly better in my opinion.
No, I agree, Ellis. I think as well. You look at that game last night. It wouldn't bother me then that side last night playing on Saturday. Do you know what I mean? It's that
100%.
That kind of strong. You know, we speaking. You know, the staff were talking about it afterwards, and like Lewis Reid in midfield in that game last night. You know, he's a proper player.
Yeah,
proper player, by the way. You know.
Yeah.
And Ricky Aguirre and Ellis Iron, proper players. So it wouldn't bother me kind of picking that side at all in a League Two fixture, you know.
Yeah,
100%.
What's it like with a player like Ellis, Scott, who could just play anywhere? Do you actually know what his best position is?
I firmly believe his best position is kind of like left of a number 8 in midfield, or probably even wide left. I've always felt Ellis has a real drive towards his game. I don't necessarily think. Listen, if we play a 3-5-2, he could be a really good wing back. I think he can play in a 4 as a left back, but I think he's wasted. I think if he was to play in a 4 as a left back, I think he would probably have to play a diamond. So he's got that channel to run down. You know, he's really forward thinking, aggressive with his running, really attacking minded. Is he a defender? I think he can defend, but I don't think it's his strength. I think he's more of an attacking player. So an attacking midfield player for me.
He's got a wand of a left foot, hasn't he, Ellis?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he's got loads of ability. Great kid as well. You know, last night he run his absolute socks off. There was one moment in the game where he pressed the right-hand side centre half. They played across the back line and he carried his press on. Bearing in mind he's playing left back. So he's carried his press on across their back line and ended up at their left-hand side centre half.
Yeah.
And it just shows, the character of him wanting to, to do well for the team last night.
Absolutely. I know you're busy, Scott, so we're not going to keep you for much longer. I've just got two questions tied into one almost to end your segment with us. So you were at the club in 2015 with the youth team. I know you were a big part of obviously signing Ellis at the time as well. If you could sign one player from your youth team at Swindon, who would it be? And also, if you were in the hot seat as a manager for the playoff final that season, would you make any changes?
Okay, so let me think. So I think the obvious one for the youth team would probably be Scott Twine.
Yeah.
That would be the obvious one. There was a player kind of in the same year as Scott called Jordan Young.
Yeah.
I
remember him.
He's at Chippenham, isn't he?
Yeah.
Chippenham,
Chippenham Town. And this kid was special as a youngster. I mean, real special. I remember Alan McLaughlin speaking to me about him when Alan was down at Portsmouth, and he said, "God, who's the number 10?" I said, "Jordan Young." He said, "He's the best kid I've seen down there." He really was special. Left-footed, strong, could shoot, could score, could dribble, could pass a bit. Just a good player. Got a professional contract. I think he ended up going to Coventry for a spell, and then kind of fell out the game in terms of the professional game, and obviously playing non-league now. But he was a real big talent. There was big things kind of hoped for him, and it was a shame, really.
He's still young.
He is. No, and I think honestly, Joe, I think he could be one that comes back in. I really do. I think he could be one that gets back in the Football League. Maybe it might be with us, because I do like him, and I think that he's. In fact, I went to watch him last season, and I didn't realise it was him. I was sat down watching. I was thinking, God, he's decent, this kid here. And then I looked at the programme, and it was him, and I was like, wow, because he'd grown a bit stockier, and he looked like more of a man now, But he was a very good player. But we had some good players in that youth team,
Was
Thompson,
Alex Henschel in that team? Was Alex Henschel around then?
No.
He was before that. Yeah.
And I think the playoff final game, don't really remember the team, if I'm honest with you. I remember Nathan Thompson obviously pulled his hamstring quite early on, or his groin, quite early on in that game. But leading up to it, we'd gone away for a few days before. We trained up at Aston Villa's training ground, and we'd stayed at the Belfry Hotel for a couple of nights. And I know the physio would work really hard with Nathan to get him fit and ready for the game. And we'd done everything. We tested him and did everything kind of correctly. And of course, it was right early on in the game when he got injured, wasn't it?
It felt a bit rushed at the time, I think, from a fan's perspective. I think when we saw the team sheet, we half expected him to be on the bench. To see him starting after coming off an injury like that, I think a lot of fans were a bit like, okay, could have maybe started with maybe Branco and Turnbull. But
yeah, maybe shouldn't have played him. But then I remember kind of all the preparation done with Nathan was, to my memory, was done correctly. I think that it was just one of them things. He'd sprinted in training. He was at full pelt the day before. I think that the work that was done properly. I think it was just kind of one of them things. It was just one of them things.
A bit of bad luck. You can never predict
so,
yeah. Can never predict it.
Also, when you're coming up against Jermaine Beckford, he was sort of in his twilight era at the time, but he was still a prolific goal scorer, wasn't he?
Yeah, I remember Beckford and Garner wasn't up front, and remember sort of like doing some work with Mark Cooper on analysing them, and everybody thought that it was Beckford was the big target man. In actual fact, it was Joe Garner who was more of the target. He was actually stronger in the air than Beckford, even though he was a lot smaller, and Beckford kind of worked off his flick-offs. It was a little bit strange where you had the little one going for the ball.
Yeah.
And Beckford running off him. But I remember doing the work, obviously with Mark Cooper, on analysing the game and going through it. Of course, they were terrific that day against us, and we just didn't turn up. which was disappointing because I remember we stayed at the Landmark Hotel when we come down from Aston Villa, when we was at the Belfry, come down, and we stayed at the Landmark Hotel. I remember me and Mark Cooper and a couple of other staff members, Luke Williams, and that we walked into town sort of thing, and there was a lot of Swindon fans around, and the atmosphere was, terrific. It was a really good day, or it felt like it was going to be a good day, and it kind of never was in the end, so it was disappointing.
Well, that's football, isn't it? But hopefully this season we can have maybe a day out at Wembley, or maybe just a trophy on the pitch at the end of the season with none of that playoff business. Would be nice.
Hopefully we don't have to go to the playoffs and they get automatic.
That's it, yeah.
We'll celebrate this time as well. Like last time we won, we weren't able to celebrate because of COVID, so we could actually celebrate this time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
How did you find all that COVID stuff?
Awful. Absolutely hated it.
It was horrible.
Yeah, I think we all felt disconnected from it. I remember when it got announced we won the league, I remember I was just made redundant actually, so I think I was just sat in the gardens in the sun because it's quite nice in lockdown, wasn't it? And we got promoted, and I bought a bottle of Prosecco like a few days before, just kept it in the fridge, and popped that open, probably sprayed it across the gate into my neighbour's garden. Yeah, that was my memory from it. But anyway,
really, when you think back,
yeah, funny old time. Scott, we don't want to keep you much longer, mate. Thank you very much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. Obviously we're at the games on Saturday, so maybe catch up with you at some point.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Really enjoyed it. Some good questions. So yeah, sorry I was probably a bit boring on a few of them, but
never boring.
A few of them, so.
No, thanks, Scott.
No thanks a lot. Thanks for your time, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate. See you later.
Right, lads, if we jump onto the Twitter space now, we can get rid of Zoom, because this is horrible. Zoom's rubbish.
Right, I'll give it a request.
Okay, right, let's add everyone onto here. Mike, you there, mate?
I am indeed. Can you guys hear me?
Happy days. Loud and clear. Loud and clear. Chris,
Yep,
you all good?
On later now.
Happy days. Boys, I thoroughly enjoyed that. What an absolute gentleman.
Genuinely,
absolutely superb.
Like such a sound guy. Like I watched his EFL debate with I can't remember the guy's name, but he did an EFL debate, and it was absolutely quality. He just seems like such a friendly, jovial sort of guy, and that's what came through when we were chatting to him as well.
What a lovely man. I know I say that about everyone that comes on, but genuinely a really nice guy.
Yeah, we were on Zoom there, guys, as well. So I hope that sounded okay from your end. But the pressure of having the gaffer look at you when you're speaking about him and you're sort of praising him, it was something else. And he was just a smiley little Swindon Town manager, and I love him.
Yeah,
super Scott Lindsey.
Wonderful smile.
Yeah, I thought the way he came across, it sort of got a touch of him as a person rather than just a football manager.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I spoke to him a couple of times, probably more early on and in pre-season, and I think at the time, obviously, I can imagine a lot was going on in his head about obviously going in from the assistant role into the managerial role. I think he was probably a little bit closed off and a bit overwhelmed at the time, maybe. But he's just grown into it. And as Chris said there, I think we got a real taster of the man behind the jacket.
Yeah, but we also had a good chat with him as well off air before we started the show as well, and had a good sort of chat through a few things.
Had a little run through a walk down memory lane, didn't you, Chris?
Yes, we did. Scott actually started his career where I live.
There you go. Tonight was meant to be.
Yeah. Sort of touching on that, obviously, as a fan base, we want him. We want Swindon to succeed, but just as a person, I want him to do well at Swindon, just because he just seems like a top bloke, and just for him, I just want him to succeed.
I feel like, especially
I
after
don't think I've said a manager that I want to succeed more than Scott Lindsey.
You can tell he loves Swindon.
Especially
you can
after
see
like
it.
someone like Garner as well, who's
100%.
never really connected with the fans. Like it's just so stark the difference, and like it helps really appreciate that sort of effort that he's putting in to actually connect with the fans.
100%.
Absolutely. Well, obviously we've had that segment of the show. We've got so many other business now. I mentioned it in the show. I said that Colchester were the worst team we played this season. I don't mean that lightly. I think we probably weren't at 100%. I'd say. I think we probably all agree. Maybe a little wasteful at times, but that game was 3 points for us all over, wasn't it? I think there was never any doubt that we were going to win that.
And we could have won more than 1-0. We could have won that game 3-0. We could have won that game 4-0. Just if we took our chances. It was just sort of it's just a difficult one, isn't it? They sat back and just there was nothing to them.
No.
Yeah, I think it would help us as well if we try and play Wakeland a little bit more centrally, closer to Jeffcott. Because when you look at the data number of all the crosses we get in, how many of them are successful? Because there's only one in there.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that on Twitter. Of sort of a lot of people want to see Wakeland as more, like you said, a more central role.
Well, this is the thing. I've always wanted to see as soon as we signed Jeffcott. I was saying I heard from a lot of Plymouth fans that they said he works best in sort of like a front two. So even before we saw him kicking ball for Swindon, I was thinking him and Wakeland up top in a front two, it could work really well. So it's something that I personally like to see, but obviously it requires a bit of a system change as well. But I truly do think we've got the depth to make different systems work as well. So I'd like to experiment.
Yeah, like the amount of times we've said it on this show, but like Wakeland and Jeffcott together is almost like a Yates Doyle combination. And like you said, Mike, we've got the depth there to sort of mix up. We can play a 4-3-3. We can play a 4-4-2. We can play a 3 at the back. Like we can mix it up all over the pitch just because we've got that depth in the squad now.
Was there anything in the Colchester side that excited any of you boys or thought, I like the look of that? Because I think their main threats really came through probably Frank Nubler, who should have scored, I think, in the second half. And then like Freddie Sears, but they're two, they're players that aren't going to have much more time left in the EFL, I'd imagine. There was was it a fullback? I can't remember his name. There was a fullback that I thought played quite well.
I thought that their left back was terrible. I thought he was shocking. He didn't make one pass. But to be honest with you, Joe, I don't think really anyone stood out to me. I think the whole team didn't really play that well.
The only really threat they had was when they were a bit physical up top, because obviously, that's not Clayton's strength. But I think that was the only time that they really looked like they were going to cause us any problems.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I'll tell you what did cause some problems though. The referee at Bristol Rovers last night.
Oh, yeah.
1 or 2.
Well, I think the last time I looked at the stats, because my stream was rubbish, I had to get it up and just sort of look at it on Bet365 as it happened. But I'm pretty sure we had about 6 bookings and 2 red cards.
How that was a red for Ricky, I do not know.
No, that was a poor decision, that.
Yeah, I saw the Brennan. Well, I watched until about 20 minutes in. I saw the Brennan first yellow card, and to be honest, that was probably an orange card because he absolutely flew through him.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a complaint of the Brennan red card, because the second one was when you're on a yellow, you don't make a tackle like that. But the first one was it could have been a straight red.
Yeah, it did fly through him.
Yeah, but the Ricky card, that I don't know. You can give a red card for that.
If I heard it correctly, did he slip?
Yeah, it was a weird one. It was just a weird challenge, and I really don't understand, even like in real time, how the referee saw that as a red card. I saw some people on, like some Rovers fans on Twitter saying he stamped on his head or something like that, but
bloody hell.
No,
The referee was well placed to see it as well.
Yeah, it was just a weird decision overall, I think.
It's one of them, isn't it? But I'd rather have it happen in the Papa John's Trophy than in a league game. So
yeah.
Yeah, and at least the players aren't suspended
yeah, exactly.
until next season.
I'll tell you what, because when Ricky come on Saturday, he come on for Darcy. I thought he played quite well when he did come on. I thought he sort of brought something else into the game. I don't think it wasn't that Darcy wasn't playing bad. I just don't think he was sort of creating any chances. And I think when Ricky come on, he sort of drove the ball forward a little bit more and just created a few more chances.
I think the thing with obviously Ronan's a favourite of the show. I think he's probably been one of our better players this season.
100%.
I think probably since the Newport game, he's been a bit AWOL with his shooting from sort of 25, 30 yards. And I think you can't really blame him because it worked a treat against Newport. He was knuckleballing every shot. He was bouncing in front of the goalkeeper, causing havoc for the rebounds. But it's one of them, isn't it, where if you shoot from 30 yards at the moment, it's going over the town end.
Yeah, but that's also why we need a player like Jeffcott there for when Darcy's shooting those balls in and getting shots on target that sometimes the keeper's parrying. That's when you want a player like Jeffcott there to sort of follow up on the shot, and especially in the second half on Saturday, the goalkeepers was struggling to see because of the sun. Like he was putting his hand up, and when they're playing against the sun, that's when you want to shoot shots into him and because the keeper's not going to see it.
Well, maybe that's where Tyrese's goal came from potentially, because he lost track of that ball, didn't he?
Oh, it was a great goal.
No man's land. To be fair, goal of the season.
That was a superb ball in from Williams, though. It just seemed to just hit shade and roll in.
Yeah.
Tell you what, the best ball of that move was the one by Jeffcott. Oh my god!
Was it that was the one out to Williams?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an even better backflip, may I say? Fantastic. And he didn't break a camera this time.
Yeah, Callum's camera was safe this time.
Yeah, improving.
But that's the thing as well with Aguiar's got a good shot on him so if they're going to do there and probably want to try and get Gladwin into some of those positions, because they're guys who can really hit the ball from that 18-20 yard
Gladwin's got
range.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a few of them, to be fair. We've not seen Saido Khan take a strike from outside the box really so far this season, but he scored some absolute scorchers for Chesterfield last season in the National League.
Yeah, like all these players we're talking about, that like even with Aguiar and like even with Reed, Morgan Roberts, all these players that we've got that were on the bench, we're spoiled with choice. Like imagine saying last season that Louis Reed's going to be on the bench for you next season, and we've got Khan there, like we got Morgan Roberts on the bench. All these options we've got, we're spoiled for choice.
Yeah. And on Saturday, Lavinia couldn't even get on the bench. I don't know if he was carrying a niggle or something, but he was absolutely superb last night.
Yeah, 100%. We've got we're spoiled with choice. Like if you look at just the right back position alone, like you said, we've got Lavinia and Hutton. Like
I think it reminds me of what Scott Lindsey was saying when we were chatting to him, that obviously we've signed a lot of these players to more than 1 year deals and they're not loans, which at this level, to be honest, is an achievement. Being able to keep the squad together for as long a period of time. So, a large portion of the squad, they're used to playing each other. They've already got that chemistry from season to season. It's really hard to do at this level. And obviously, with the sort of Moneyball model that we've got, hopefully the young players that we buy will develop on and then invest in more sort of young players. So, 100%, that depth that we've got is a huge to take advantage of it by sort of experiment with these different formations for certain games as well.
Yeah, I think spot on. Like even like players like Jake Wakelin, he's how many goals has he scored already?
4.
just
He's the highest scoring teenager in the EFL.
well, there you go. Like the talent, like you can just see the talent in him when he's playing, and we're spoiled. I think.
I just think we're wasting him a bit out wide as well, especially when we play with such high fullbacks. That's why I think we might have a little bit more of a threat with the two up there, because whether it's Hutton or Lavinia down the right or Blake Tracy down the left, or even if Ellis plays down there, they play quite high up. So we're getting that width from them if we just have that little bit more in the middle.
I think it's one of those. Like we started the season with a 3-5-2, with obviously Adeloy and Wakeling up top. Maybe we give 3-5-2 a go again, and then try Jeffcott and Wakeling up top with a 2, and then that's probably where someone like an NSR Andelo comes in as a wing back in a back 5.
Are you thinking of moving Blake Tracy inside?
Yeah, I'd probably go for Blake Tracy as a left centre back, just because he's so vital in terms of winning headers. He gets up, he brings the ball out well as well. I think Ellis is probably more potent going forward than Fraser is.
Yeah, but they can also rotate round there. Is the flexibility between the two of them? So if Ellis cuts in, then Blake Tracy can go up and go outside him.
It's very true. They could like switch and swap, and don't forget we've also got Shade there as well. And I think it was Walsall fans who sort of said that Shade was performing best in sort of a wing back sort of role. So that's what I mean about.
And we got Divine as well.
And Divine, yeah, literally, it's just there's so many players who have that capability to fulfill those different roles in those different formations. So, yeah, what we've had has worked against certain opposition so far, but like you said recently, we've sort of been drying up, being able to get that ball inside that sort of six yard box, which is, where the most dangerous sort of opportunities are gonna appear in this sort of league, this type of football. So definitely interesting to see if that would help.
Well, Divine hasn't even got in the squad. Although the fact he wasn't in the squad last night makes me wonder if there's a niggle or something with him again.
I'd imagine he's got an injury. I saw on Ricky McFarlane's Instagram stories that he was in the gym last night when the boys were at
I saw that.
The majority of the boys were at the Bristol Rovers game. I think himself and was it Rush and Hepburn Murphy?
Yeah.
I think him and Rush were in the gym with Ricky. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Hepburn Murphy back. The game against who was it?
Plymouth.
Plymouth. When he come on, he just obviously scored the goal. He just looks like such a good player. And I know when he come on, I can't remember the game he come on. The next game,
it was at Grimsby.
Grimsby, that's the one. When he come on at Grimsby, I know he didn't have much to do, but he's one of those players that sort of really excites me in this squad.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, what a decision for Scott to make as well now with the way Lavinia played last night. Who's playing right back on Saturday?
Yeah.
I'd say Marcel would probably get into the side on Saturday.
I'd agree with that.
I think if we were going to make one change, it'd probably be that. Just looking at my notes, obviously I've just seen we spoke about it briefly before we went on to air, but the FA Cup draw in the week wasn't the most inspiring, was it? I mean,
not at all.
No.
The Stockport game earlier in the season, I think we should have won, but we got caught out by probably our sort of
Achilles heel.
Achilles heel, that's the word I'm looking for. A long ball over the top. I think didn't we have Ronan Darcy playing right back at the time?
Yeah, he was playing right back in that game, but I don't think he was on the pitch then. I think Hutton was on.
Was he? Okay.
Oh no, he wasn't. Hutton came on, but Hutton played almost in a right wing place there, and Darcy stayed at right back.
Surely, I think we've come a long way since then. I think we've got a chance of getting through. I think it's a tough draw. What do you boys think?
They've not had a good season, Stockport, so there's a chance there.
Yeah, I think I'm positive that we can beat them. It won't be an easy game, but I've got high hopes that we'll beat them.
Yeah,
they didn't really create anything or look like it was just a set piece that we're asleep at the back on.
Yeah, I think every game that we're playing, there's an aspect of the game that we just look better at. Like, you could sort of argue what we're missing is just sort of the finishing at the moment, like sort of just getting more shots off. But just if you look back to even the Leyton Orient game, sort of towards the start of the season, the squad and how we play as a whole, I think, is 10 times better than how we looked.
We've got different personnel at the end of the day as well. Like Orient game, we didn't have Blake Tracy, didn't
Yeah,
have
true.
Jeffcott.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Obviously, Lavinia. There are a few. I think we're a different side. We're a different beast.
Well, in like, you got to be fair to them. We're still pretty. We're early on in the season. Like the boys are still getting to know each other and sort of their playing styles. It takes time for it all to click, and I think you're starting to see glimpses of it now.
I think it's like Scott touched on there as well. What did you say? We signed 21 players. It's going to take time for them to gel.
21 players is just crazy.
How many do you reckon we sign next summer? I reckon it's under 10, or maybe like under 5.
Well, it depends on when you leave, really. I think obviously
there's a few, I think, on 1-year deals that might move on. You're always at this level. You're always going to have a bit of an overturn, but we're certainly not going to be buying or signing 20 players.
Nah,
a lot less than that.
No.
Well, one player that we sort of haven't really seen much of is Oscar Massey. He was on the bench last night, but he didn't come on.
I don't think the circumstances really were ever in his favour last night.
No, but
I think as well. I saw a lot of people give Harry Parsons some stick from last night, but I'm not being funny. If you're a striker in a team of 9 men against opposition from a division above, what can you do? You're not scoring a hat trick, are you?
Yeah,
and also, did you see the players that Rovers brought on like halfway through the second half? They were like, they were like their best players.
I did feel bad for Harry Parsons because, like you said, he was playing at the front of a 9-man squad, and I think he played. I think what he had to do. He done well. It's just you're playing against a team in the league above with 9 men. It's never good. It's like, you know,
it doesn't bode well, does it?
No, not at all.
But I mean, going back to the point, Stockport away, tough game, but I'd say I think we're all agreeing that it's kind of winnable.
100%.
But it's not the sort of non-league type. I was kind of hoping personally for Farnborough away because it's a 5-minute walk to the ground for me.
Yeah, it's local to you, isn't it?
We've got Sutton United away, so genuinely, I know I'm Swindon Town through and through, but I might be at Sutton United on the 5th of November.
Yeah, do it, man. Say hello to Wardy. Give him my best.
There's a decent draw for Chippenham as well at home to Lincoln.
Yeah,
that's a big draw.
Big draw for them.
Big draw. Might mention actually, I'll go give Wardy a hug in Sutton. There you go.
He's got the arms for it. I'll wrap you around like twice, mate.
Also, we've got Hartlepool at home the weekend, lads. We'll be
double
there.
Header as well.
Double header. Yeah, we'll be there broadcasting live from the county ground. So make sure you join us on Saturday. Hartlepool, they got absolutely annihilated by Everton's reserves last night.
6-0, wasn't it?
6-0, yeah.
Wow.
And I think a lot of their players, it wasn't much of a youth side they put out. It was a fairly decent side for them. That's embarrassing, isn't it?
Hartlepool. I mean, my sister lives in Hartlepool, and I work with a big Hartlepool fan, and they just said that they're just awful, truly awful. Horrendous. They've just signed so much Scottish dross, and Keith Curle's just got nothing to work with. Although they just have signed Theo Robinson, who's not played for 8 months and started on Saturday.
Well, we know it's going to score against us,
don't we? The league right now.
3-0, I think. I think we beat them 3-0.
We should be beating the game.
I think we'll probably win that one quite comfortably if we just play with a bit more direct, and a 3 or 4 we should do.
I know the score on last Saturday was only 1-0, but we genuinely could have won it by a lot more, I think. And
I mean, Jeff had a great chance. I think it was in the first half.
Yeah. 1-on-1 with the keeper,
if he'd gone across the keeper, it might have been a better option. But fair play to the keeper. He came out quick to close him down.
I think if that goes in, we probably go on to score more goals because it sets a precedent moving forward. Going into the second half when you're leading.
Scott mentioned it. It's one of those games where you want an early goal. to where you want to score an early goal, because it sort of forces the opposition to do a little bit more and not just sit back.
Yeah.
Which you see a lot of teams doing at the county ground.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Hartlepool the weekend sit back and take it as much as they can. I mean, we said maybe we'd debate starting Lavinia instead of Hutton on Saturday. I'm interested to see what you boys would think in terms of starting 11s for Saturday. Are you changing anyone? Is it one change for you with Lavinia coming in?
Yeah, I think I'd go sort of unchanged apart from Lavinia, bring him instead of Hutton.
Just to confirm, who was the starting three in midfield last game?
It was Khan, Darcy, and Gladwin.
Yeah,
Darcy and Gladwin. Yeah, that's a pretty good midfield three. I'd be relatively happy. To maybe give Aguiar a bit of a stretching of his legs. But...
Yeah, I don't think you can argue Reed should replace Khan, because Khan was man of the match Saturday.
Yep.
And I think he played really well. So it wouldn't. I don't think that justifies taking Khan out at all.
Yeah. Although not a lineup change so much, but I would like Williams to sort of play at the top of a diamond and have Jeffcott and Wakelin up front, because then the fullbacks are playing pride in that width. And I just think having Johnny in the middle as well, we're going to get the best out of him. Well, him and Wakelin through the middle.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
I want to see a bit more of Morgan Roberts as well. He come on Saturday and he played quite well when he come on. He looks quite a tricky player.
Definitely. Yeah, it would be nice if we'd kept 11 on last night to see a bit more of him. But obviously, as an attacking player, I think we just need to write that game off last night, because anyone at the top end of the pitch didn't really have much of a chance.
No.
Yeah, I'd agree. I can see Morgan Roberts coming on Saturday. Yeah. I think the ideal scenario is us to go like 2-0 up within sort of 60 minutes. And then that's when you bring on Morgan Roberts. Sort of, there's no license for him to have a specific game plan that we need him to execute. It's kind of a free roaming position when you're in that place.
Do what you want. Go.
It just takes the pressure off as well. If you come on when we're already winning 2-0 up, it's not like you're there to save the game, or like, the pressure's massive. You could just sort of play your game, enjoy yourself, and show what you can do, really.
Yeah, I think obviously it's not a great example because he didn't pull up trees, I guess. But the way we blooded Miles Story, I think, is the way that we should be blooding Morgan Roberts. Miles Story would come on, especially under Canio. We'd be 3-0 up away at Stevenage. You bring him on and he'll score a goal, 4-0. That's the way that I see Morgan Roberts being integrated into this squad.
Yeah, I think you're bang on with that, Joe.
I think one more thing I wanted to touch on before we ended the show was the announcement. We had Rob Angus on the show on Saturday to discuss it. The announcement of the under-16s in the town end having to sort of arrive and be accompanied by a paying adult.
Yeah.
Interested to sort of get your boys' views on that. I mean, I've seen some. I don't want to condemn anyone, because obviously you can't. I've said it on socials this week. You can't tar every single person that's under 16 with one brush. That's not fair.
100%.
I went to games when I was 16 with my friends, and you get involved, and it's your football club at the end of the day, and you can't tell people that they can't support their football club. But I think the scenes that I've seen personally in the town end in recent games, I think the one that sticks out was Northampton, of groups of people sort of pushing or forcing themselves into small areas of town end, throwing stink bombs. Obviously, we had the issue with the broken seats. You can't pin that on them because you don't know who it is, and that wouldn't be fair to do that. But what are your sort of your boys' views on that, Ellis? As a younger person, Ellis, as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, you weren't 16 a million years ago. How does that make you feel?
It's a tricky one because you can see both sides of it. Is it under 16s banned just from the town end, or is it the whole ground as a whole?
I think it's town end.
Okay, well that's not as bad because like they can still go and watch. You're not stopping under 16s from watching Swindon. It's just from going in the town end.
I might be wrong there, but I think it's just the town end.
Yeah,
I think it clearly affected the attendance because it was there was, I mean, what was it, 8.5? I think we normally for a Saturday, I think we should be getting 9. I think it was a bit of the attendance knocked off because of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a tricky one, isn't it? And I think Rob's mentioned that there's been tens of thousands of pounds worth of damage on the town end this season alone. And it's just an extra expense that the club shouldn't be dealing with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think a lot
And
of the arguments probably come from the club should be installing CCTV in the town end to sort of, when that does happen, to pinpoint who that is that's causing the issues, which is probably a fair argument.
Yeah.
I'm
More
sure that
stewards
probably,
in there
once
as well.
we do renovate the town end or we renovate the stadium, I'm sure that CCTV would be in play.
Yeah, and if all of this carries on after the ban's been put in place, then I think maybe there should be a review of it and say, look, it may not. Well, if it's still carrying on after they've been banned, it couldn't have been them, or there's other people involved with it as well. It's I can honestly see both sides of the story, because I've seen people say they've got a season ticket and now they can't go watch.
At the end of the day, that's not fair.
No.
Yeah, 100%. And
I'm sure there'd be a way around it. I'm sure they maybe be able to get him moved to another area of the ground. But at the end of the day, they paid for that ticket.
It's so unfair. Like if you paid over 150 quid plus or whatever it is for season ticket for when you're under 16, so imagine if you bought it specifically to be able to go in the town, and you're literally, the reason you bought the ticket is now sort of null and void. I just feel like there must be a better way. There must be a way around this. And
I think the obvious answer is more stewards.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. That I think the stewards need to up their game.
But the thing is, as well, if the steward starts manhandling people, and then he can get pointed out or told off for being too rough, or it's a
real tricky situation.
You can't. There's rights and there's wrongs, but I think the club are in a bad position here. That they're not going to win.
Whatever they do, there's going to be a wrong answer. There's going to be a sort of a backlash to anything, because they can't just leave it, because there is an obvious problem in the town end. There is a problem there, and they can't just leave it. They've got to address it somehow. And I think this is how I see it. It's more of a. I don't think it will be in place for the whole season. I think it's more of a warning to say, look, we're on your case. Cut it out, essentially. That's how I see it. I think it won't be long before maybe the ban's not in place anymore.
Reversed, yeah.
I may be wrong.
No, I completely agree with that. And to be honest, I feel like what Joe said earlier about CCTV in the town end, it feels like a sense solution. And it's going to cost a lot of money, but it will help prevent other issues as well. Like, people smashing up, the seats, but also take, I've heard a lot of stuff about people taking drugs or, other sort of illicit stuff happening in
allegedly. We'll throw it in there, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. I mean, it's a big problem, so it wouldn't surprise me about Swindon as well. My point that I'm making, the CCTV solves more than one issue.
Yeah, and if they're paying all the money on the town, if they're paying this season alone, if they've paid over tens of thousands of pounds, installing CCTV is in the long run, you're going to save that money, aren't you? You're going to get that money back, essentially.
Yeah, I'd agree. Well, I think we've gone over our hour there, boys, but I think it's a really important topic to speak about. Obviously, it's been the talk of the town, quite literally.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I've seen it.
To review the club, I'm sure.
I've seen a lot of backlash on Twitter, like a lot.
Yeah, it's been noisy, but as I said, I'm sure the club are looking at it, and we'll probably hear a follow-up, I'd assume, soon from the club. But on that note, I think we're going to sign off, lads. It's been a short but sweet one.
What a lovely man Scott is.
We'll end on this gushing about Scott Lindsey.
Yeah.
We love you, Scott.
Yeah, we're waiting to see his TikToks.
Oh yeah, we need to get these on the club account, on the club Twitter.
Yeah, Jonah Hoops, if you're listening, just target Scott every day.
Make it happen. I want to see Scott Lindsey do a TikTok dance by the end of this week.
Exactly. Haven't done like a Rolex week. That's not.
I'll be dreaming about it tonight. Don't worry. I'll be dreaming about it.
I'm sure you will, Jay.
Haven't done a gritty.
Oh.
Anyway, let's not descend into madness. Thank you very much for listening to the Tom Broadbent Lounge. Reminder to get your entries in for the draw to win. Entries are still being taken. We'll be live on Saturday at the County Ground for the visit of Hartlepool. Any views expressed on tonight's show are not those of Swindon Town Football Club, nor are they of Tom Broadbent himself. They are solely ours. They're probably wrong, but
Joe,
I hope you enjoy them.
Can I quickly just add the double-header game?
Yes,
I know we sort of mentioned it. Double-header game this Saturday. The women's Swindon team are playing after the men's game. Your ticket gives you free entry to the game, so stick around and support the girls.
Literally
like
double
said,
the value for the price of one ticket.
Exactly. You're already there. Enjoy it.
Absolutely. What a note to end on. Quite literally plural. Come on, you Reds.